All right. Welcome, everybody. Kristen and Eric Pardue here.
Hi.
And can I just start by saying that I wish all of you were in my living room. I'd rather be doing this like around the dinner table or in my living room with all of you rather than over the screen. But thank you, God, for technology that we can do this over the screen where we don't have to live in the same city. But if I could make this more intimate where we would just be sitting around a table together, I would. That's what that would be amazing. But this is the next best thing. So I'm grateful for that for sure. But yeah, I want this to be laid back and casual. I don't we're talking about life here, like even aside from business, your marriage does affect your business, but we're just talking about life. And so let's just all get real with one another. I mean, that's, life is a big deal. So let's just all get open and honest here and ask any questions. I'm kind of an open book. That's good and bad, I guess, sometimes, but what you see is what you get. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. If you do have questions, you can put them in the chat box, or if you want to unmute yourself, you can ask that way. But anyway, we do not have anything prepared. It's really just talking from our hearts tonight because some of you saw my post on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. I posted today and I said, I got the reminder email that I'm up for the team call tonight. And I'm like, well, what should I talk about is what I thought to myself, what's something new that I could talk about? And the immediate thought that I had in my head was talk about marriage. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Talk about marriage. And and I was like, well, I really want to talk about marriage on a business call, a team call. But a lot of times people don't think, or you wouldn't think that your marriage affects your business, but it does. And vice versa. Your business is going to could potentially affect your marriage. It all goes hand in hand. Your personal life does affect your business. And we are always going to be ones that are going to push you to have an awesome marriage. I'm never going to be one, I hear from so many women. So if you're on this call, it's not just you. I can tell you that I hear all the time from so many women that either tell me, Kristen, what do I do? My husband and I are having problems because he's just not supportive of my business. Or Kristen, how do I do it all? There's marriage, there's my husband, there's the children, there's this business, there's cleaning the house. Like, I just feel so overwhelmed. What do I do? And as women, sometimes we tend to be people pleasers. We want to make everybody happy. And there's only so much of us that can go around, right? And so at the end of the day, sometimes we're left feeling depleted or it's kind of a cry for help. Anyway, so as I prefaced in my post today, please don't hear me saying that we have done it perfectly, because we have not. I've been pretty open, fairly open on social media that we, have come a long way in our marriage. We have been married a little over 10 years, and God has taught us a lot through all of this, and then doing this business together as well. I started out doing it by myself, and now he does it with me. Anyway, so we've learned a lot. And so we want to cheer you on in your marriage, knowing that what you see on social media from anybody, I mean, I see everybody's perfect life marriages on social media, and it's easy to believe that, to have that thought of, oh, everybody's marriage is perfect but mine. Well, we all know that that's not true, right? Because people only share on social media their highlight reels, right? Nobody's marriage is perfect, but some, maybe need some more work than others. And so anyway, let me say that. All that to say is we want to cheer you on. We are always working on our own marriage and growing, and we want to be your biggest cheerleaders for that. Because life is not just about this business, but we want to cheer you on in your marriage as well, and parenting, for those of you that are still in that stage. But your marriage will affect your business. And so I don't want people to use it as an excuse. Like, I don't want people to say, oh, well, because my marriage isn't great, then I'm just not going to be able to go very far in this business. Or because my husband's not supportive, I'm just stuck at this rank, such and such rank. Don't use it as an excuse, but use it as a motivator to do the necessary work in your marriage. Do what's necessary to have healing, to have forgiveness, to have date night, to have that time together, so that your marriage can get better. And also, your business will get better as well. So I guess we're just going to start by sharing our business journey from both of our perspectives. So a lot of you have heard me share before. how do I do the speaker view? I'm not sure. A lot of you have heard me share before, just at the very beginning of this business, when I told Eric that I was going to do doTERRA as a business, and he said, absolutely not. You're not doing this as a business. You're not doing one of those MLMs, multi-level marketing. And he had told me all the negative things about network marketing companies and said that I was not just going to be one of those statistics. And so we got in an argument whenever I first told him I was going to do this in business. And we didn't have hardly any money back then. We were barely making it financially. And we had a baby at the time, one baby at the time. And I said, I'm going to use these oils the rest of my life because they work so well. Why don't you just let me share these oils? And he just kept saying, no, you're not going to do this. You need to focus on building a private practice. Because at the time I wanted to quit my job to stay at home with our baby, but financially could not do that. He wanted me just to start my private practice and really get my own clients. So we got in a disagreement, and I don't really remember how it ended. He may remember better than me, but my stubbornness, I guess, paid off, and I basically was like, I'm doing it. Like, I love you, but I'm doing it because I just kind of wanted to show him that I could do it, And you want to share it from your perspective, that conversation?
I don't remember the specifics of that conversation, but I know that I was against it. But let me say that for me, it was just being uneducated. So there's always a lot of fear around things that we don't know. And for the most part, if you've never been in network marketing or you don't know about direct sales, then a lot of times if you've never done it, then your experience is maybe potentially negative, or maybe you've had an experience with it and it didn't work. And so for me, I'd never been involved in network marketing, but I know a few people that have, and it just seemed like people always spend a lot of money, put a bunch of product like in their closet or their garage, and then never really did anything and ended up wasting time and money. And so for me, I was just like, hey, this is not a real business. So again, there's a lot of fear, I think, from like a husband's perspective about not really knowing like what this looks like, not really knowing that it's an actual business. Because for me, I was, in sales, and I was working, and I was thinking, okay, well, if you want to start a business, you're a dietitian, you're going to, you need to build up your practice. And so I was thinking from more like of a traditional standpoint of business, not knowing that direct sales is a fantastic business, and you can't have a more like well-rounded like business model out there as far as, how much it costs to start the business, as far as like how much time, like how it works. Like there's no other business that you can invest that little amount of money up front and then create like an asset that you can actually have within doTERRA. So for me, like I said, there was a lot of fear around not knowing what this was going to look like and just thinking it was a waste of time. And then like as she started to do it, I don't remember me saying like, no, you're not going to do it, but maybe I did. But anyways, she would meet with individuals about health and stuff, and then she would use oils as like a supplementary like product, and she started selling them and started making money. And so then I started watching how much like the money that she was making. And at the beginning, like, it's not that much, it's like, and so at that point I was like, okay, well, if this is a job, then fine, let's look at it like a job. And so then I was looking at how much money or how much time she was spending versus how much money she was making. And, sometimes like, if you work out the math, you're like, okay, that may be like $2 an hour, or something like really small. And so for me, like trying to look at it as how much time she was spending versus how much money she was making, again, it just reinforced like, okay, well, this is just like not working. And so it was until she won the incentive trip to Tulum, Mexico. And it was down there that I actually spent time with other couples that were doing the business. And then I met the executives. And from there, like I really saw it was like a real business, because that's one thing not everybody can win an incentive trip and get their husbands in front of the executives or meet other couples. But you can maybe show them this video, or, you can challenge them to research the company. And so I think that's the thing. A lot of times people think of direct sales companies, if they don't have experience with it, I used to think of it as a joke. Like, oh, that's a joke. It's not a real business. And so, if you do your research, and we know now doTERRA's been around for 10 years, and what they've done in 10 years is pretty crazy. Hitting $1 billion in, is it 8 years, 9 years? I don't know. Anyways, being $1 billion company in less than 10 years is pretty ridiculous. And so understanding that it's a real business, that the people that started the company are like smart business people, they understood to get oils into the market, you had to create a culture. And the best way to create a culture is to do direct sales, do network marketing, to build networks, let people understand how to use the products. And so for me, when I finally understood, like, oh, well, this is why, if they just start and put oils on the shelf at Walmart, I mean, there's no way they'd be $1 billion company today. No way. And so because they created a culture and, you know, they got people involved and they understood the oils, that's really like what the reason why oils need to be sold direct sales and through multi-level marketing. So, yeah, I think, again, there's a lot of fear for husbands of being the unknown. And so I think it's good to research the company and see that it is a legit company. And now this was, I think, what you started when it was like 5 years old. And so there were only a few people. There was one Blue Diamond, I think, in Tennessee. And really, that was Scott Ford. When I heard him speak, that was a big turning point too. And I'm like, okay, this is somebody that's actually making, I think they were making like $35,000 a month at that time.
They're making $42,000 a month. Because whenever I went to my second business meeting and they told me how much they made, I was like, $42,000 a month? You've got to be kidding me.
So $42,000 a month. So now there's a lot more people out there that are making that kind of money. And so, I mean, the more people that do it, the more, you know, proof there's going to be that it's possible and that people can do it. So, and now, you know, if you want to do research on the company, you can find stats all over, you know, about doTERRA just being a real company. And so, yeah, for me, it was just understanding that. So back to the whole job scenario. At first, I felt like she was treating it as a job, or I was having her treat it like a job. And so I was realizing, you're not making much money. But really, just like any business, right? If it's an asset, you are going to spend a lot of time up front, and then you're going to create residual income later on down the road. And so that's what, you know, over time, I began to realize, oh, this is a real company. You invest your time into it, and then it will continue to pay over time. And again, there's no other business out there that you can, you know, build. So what we do sometimes like $2 million a month in sales on a good month, usually around like $1.5 million. Like, again, that's total revenue within our organization. There's no other business that you can, within 5 years, really within like 3 years, we're probably doing $1 million in revenue.
Revenue, you mean volume?
Well, volume. So not personal revenue, but underneath us in an organization. There's no other business that you can invest as little as we invested, say $200 a month is what you're going to invest, and be able to create an organization that's having volume of over $1 million. So anyways, it's one of the best ways to generate an asset that's going to pay you money continually.
Yeah, so I want to get back to the early days of what marriage was like when I first started doing the business. So obviously I wasn't making much money back then. We were strapped for cash financially. I couldn't afford to quit. So neither one of us made very much money from our full-time jobs, and we had a son that was in daycare. And I did not want him to be in daycare. I wanted to quit my job to be with him, but we couldn't afford for me to do so. And we lived in this like old rental house in Nashville that had mold issues and lead-based paint, and just it was an old falling apart house that we were renting at the time. That was what we could afford. And anyway, I just think back to those times when I was teaching class after class after class, and I wish we would have videotaped us then so that I could share it with everybody now, because it's sometimes hard for me to remember back 5 years ago because I've had 3 children now. Need some more frankincense in my brain. But I just wanted to, ask you, Eric, like, I just remember he would have to be the one. We'd eat dinner, and then I'd be like, see ya, gonna go teach a class. And this is after we both worked all day. He would have to be the one to clean up the kitchen, get our son to bed, and do the nightly routine. And sometimes three times a week he did that, because I taught a lot of classes then. So I guess, like, what were your thoughts when you were always having to clean up the house and get our son to bed back then, when I wasn't making much money and we weren't flowing with money yet?
So yeah, it was difficult. And I mean, to be truthful, like, there's still times today, even when we're making good money, that it's still difficult. So, it's just like anything with any job, you have those things that you just have to do, where if you just get stuck in it and you're just looking at like the now, you can just get kind of in a funk or just kind of be negative. And so the more that I was able to like remind myself of, hey, you know what, like, Kristen's going out, like, building the business, or, teaching classes, like, this is my role. The quicker I could look at it as like, a partnership and like being on a team was better. Because again, in the early years, there's a lot of times I didn't. And again, even today, sometimes, there's just stuff that I have to do that, I just maybe don't want to do.
But see, back then you didn't know what life was going to look like now.
Right.
So how did you stay not getting resentful towards me while I was out teaching all these classes? And I'm asking these questions because I feel like they'll help everybody here.
Yeah.
How did you not get resentful towards me? Or maybe you did and didn't tell me. How was your attitude? Because you didn't know we were going to be where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. Like, I don't know. I'm sure there was a little bit of frustration around it, but I think part of it was I knew that this was something that you were going to do, and it was you were passionate about it. And so even though it was frustrating, sometimes and, doing like the dirty work, like I just knew that it was something that like brought you fulfillment and that like made you happy. And so, yeah, and I think like that's with anything, especially in marriage. Like there's times where I'm like, how come I do this every time? And it's not true. You do stuff that you do every time, or there's a lot of stuff you do that I don't see. And so it's just like getting out of your head and stop looking at yourself, right? I think it's like the biggest thing we've learned in like marriage, or that we figured out, was that, is when you're focusing on the other person, like you're already losing, right? If you're focused on the other person, trying to fix them or change them, then you're not even looking at yourself. And you're not going to go anywhere. And so the sooner I can stop like figuring out, what I want you to change, and figure out like what I need to change, or how I need to change my thought, or change what I'm thinking about, or what I'm, concentrating on. The better that our marriage is going to be, and the better that our environment's going to be, which, you have to have a good environment in order to have a good business.
I think that's key, because like he saw how passionate I was about the teaching classes. Like after he knew and knows how passionate I am about natural health. Like literally when I started this business, before the money started coming in, I would have taught classes even if I never made a penny. And I know some people think that's crazy, but I'm that passionate about natural health. And yes, the money helps me be okay with leaving my child back then and all that. So, the money is beneficial, obviously. But when I first started, before I knew that I could even quit my job to do doTERRA, I was doing it because I was passionate about it. That was my overall why. I will shout from the rooftop about these products because they work so well. So, and he saw how passionate that made me to help other people. And so, and this is what I told a friend the other day, or a girl on our team, whose husband necessarily isn't as supportive as she would like him to be. And so and maybe Eric can talk about this, but I'm like, does your husband have any hobbies? And then, this is not a hobby. Do not hear me saying that our business is a hobby, because it's not. It's a business. It's a legit business. But I said, does your husband have something that he likes to do that may cost him some money? Some husbands like to fish or hunt or play ball. I don't know. Maybe it costs some money sometimes, or go on a guy's trip, or I don't know. But they like to do things that they find fulfillment in. Well, so part of me was like, this isn't a hobby, this is a business. But even if your husband just looked at it as like, this is something that helps fulfill you and that you're passionate about, like what if that husband could just shift his mindset and being like, I just want to see her happy, and this brings her joy. Obviously I want to bring her joy too, but this also brings her joy. So I love watching her get to do something that she enjoys. And so for those of you that are husbands that are watching this now, or watching the recording of this, is, why not, even if she's not raking in the money, the dough yet, like why, if she's passionate about this, like she's serving people, she's helping people, she's sharing the gift of health with the rest of the world. Why not just let her be happy and doing something that she enjoys doing, even if she's not making 10 grand a month yet, And I said yet, because as long as you keep going, you will.
So so let me say, like, if you're on this call, then this is definitely something that you're passionate about, because you wouldn't jump on this call if you're not passionate about it. So, because I remember, like Kristen didn't love her job at the time that she was doing, and she wanted to be home. And when you're not getting like fulfilled in either work or certain areas of life, like it definitely, your energy is going to be lower, and you're not going to like be your best even in your marriage. And I think that's a great example about like hobbies. So like for me, like I just started working out pretty consistently like 2 years ago. And that's one thing for me that I think is a good like relator for husbands sometimes, is like, for me, like when I work out and, you have a new max or whatever it is, and you have that fulfillment after you work out when you accomplish something, and you have more energy, you feel like you stand a little taller. Like I saw Kristen do that in the early years when she started doing oils, because she just wasn't passionate about her job. And then when she started doing this, there was like that excitement and a different energy. And so I would say, like, even if your spouse is on here and they're passionate about it, then, I mean, as they do this business and as they find success, they're going to end up being a better person, and they're going to end up being a better friend to people, a better spouse, a better mom, a better, wife, just because they're getting fulfillment and they're doing things that they're passionate about. So yeah, like I said, with Kristen in the early years, like I saw as she began to be successful with it, she just was, there was more joy, and there was just more like fulfillment. And that's another thing I'll say to husbands too. A lot of times in this business, we have a lot of girls that come to her and maybe talk about how they're growing, because to do doTERRA, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to teach classes. You have to do tough things. And that's another thing I would encourage husbands to get on board, or do something to grow yourself as well.
I just wrote that down.
Or literally.
To talk about one growing. What if one spouse is doing personal development and one isn't? I just wrote that down to talk about.
So if you're not doing anything to challenge yourself, and maybe you have your own job and that's your challenge and that's how you get your fulfillment. If so, great, keep doing that. But that's the thing about doTERRA, you can't be stagnant and grow your business, right? You're never going to grow. You're never going to outgrow, or personally, you're never going to outgrow your business from where you are, like emotionally and like mentally and kind of how you are. So to grow your business, you have to grow personally. And so if you're doing doTERRA, you're going to grow. And if your spouse isn't growing, then there could be a disconnect, and they may need some type of fulfillment. And there might be a little bit of like bitterness or even jealousy, especially if they see you come more alive and they're not having fulfillment. I think there was a little bit in that relationship, probably after I quit my job. I had all these like ideas that I thought was going to work with doTERRA, and like it wasn't like what I thought, how I was going to be able to do it at first. And so there was a lot of times I just kind of felt like unfulfilled, like what's my role here? Am I even contributing? And I think that's when I got into working out, and just having that little bit, I think gave me more energy, helped me be able to grow, and find some fulfillment as well.
So I encourage, like in the personal development arena, talking about growth, it's sometimes what I've seen, not very often, but with some couples is, usually this is the women. I mean, there's a lot of men that do this business without women, but this typically can be a woman, business. And what I've seen is that sometimes the husband will won't vocalize this, but will get a little jealous of the wife's growth. Like, oh my gosh, she's growing. Like, she's becoming this better person. She's doing all this personal development. I've seen a change in her. And it's hard sometimes for the husband to vocalize it, but I think it stems from fear. It's like, is she leaving me behind? Like, she finds happiness and joy from growing in this personal development. And she's, working on herself and finding lots of healing and getting set free from lots of bondage. And then he kind of feels maybe left behind. And so thankfully that did not happen with us, because like when I was like growing and working on myself, he was right there like, oh, I gotta go too. Like, let's do all these events together. So we've gone to Tony Robbins events. Don't go without your spouse. I mean, you could, but I recommend going together. We went together. Leadership. He's always like, I'm going to leadership. We're going to have to figure out what to do with the kids, but I'm going to leadership with you, because that's where they talk more about business. If you're silver and up, you get your spouses there. He likes to talk that one more than convention. But, read books together as a couple, listen to audiobooks together. Just be okay with like working on yourself together. And I think the biggest number one killer to growth for both people is pride. We cannot let our pride get in the way of thinking, well, I'm fine just the way I am, and I don't need to grow myself, or I don't need any healing. I don't need my heart healed, or, no, that's pride. And we don't ever want to let pride get in the way for either one of us. And so I'm grateful that Eric is like, yeah, I need to work on myself too. We need to work on our marriage. We need to work on this and that. And so if you can go to events together and read books together, that's so, so key in this business. In business and in life, honestly, because you both want to be growing, going upwards. Somebody asked a question I wanted to answer. How did you make time for each other or keeping your relationship strong? Oh, whoops. I skipped one. How did you make time for each other? Okay. At the beginning, we did not make time for each other, did we? I mean, it was we drove. So I would drive at the very beginning. I would drive to go teach classes in other states. Well, a lot of times, as long as he didn't have to work, it was on a weekend, he drove with me. We would go home to my parents or my in-laws, and he would go with me and watch our son while I taught classes. So, we spent time together in the car driving to a lot of classes. We would do date nights. I recommend date nights. We don't do that as good of a job right now because we have a 5-month-old that's nursing, but I recommend date nights. You need to schedule those in. That's a huge recommendation I have. That's something that we also need to get better about. But again, we have a baby, is scheduling, maybe doing every Friday night date nights and just getting a sitter every Friday night just to make that time for yourself.
I think too, like, since we were both, after a couple of months or with you doing the business, both of us, or I was excited about it too. So, and I mean, it's like this today. Like if we go out or if we're driving in the car, like there's probably a 50% chance we're talking about doTERRA. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because we both do it and we both enjoy it and we both thinking about how to grow it or how to strategize or how to help this builder or what we should do. And so, for us, like it's kind of like a team sport. And so, like I think one of the best ways to like grow with your spouse is to do like an activity anyways. And so for a while, that was probably like our activity was personal development and doing doTERRA. That was probably most of our conversations. And like I said, still is probably.
Yeah. And so I just want to talk about communication, just like this is just in general, not even necessarily in your marriage, but just in general. I think I've before on our team calls or Facebook Live or something, I've talked about agreements versus expectations. And so just like you would handle that with a builder on your team, like that's how we should really honestly deal with communicating with our spouses, especially when it comes to this business. So what we don't want happening is us going out and teaching all these classes or going to our beach retreat, our girls weekend, or, convention or leadership. And then our husband's doing all the job with the kids in the house and then them getting resentful. That's what we don't want to happen. And so that happens if we don't have agreements with our spouse or our significant others. And so, unmet expectations in any relationship, including our marriage, unmet expectations is what a lot of times makes people feel resentful or upset or mad or frustrated with their spouse. And so I think just going forward with your classes or your business trips or anything like that, it's like, hey, I'm really wanting to teach 4 classes this month. Like maybe you're talking about October with your spouse. Hey, this is busy season. Like this is when doTERRA momentum is high. We are going for it. This is fall and winter season. I would really like to teach 5 classes this month. I was thinking about Thursday nights, every Thursday night, scheduling a class, maybe one Saturday morning. Are these dates okay for me to go ahead and put on the schedule? Are you okay with watching the kids, taking Owen to soccer, does that look good to you? And if he says yes, then we like, okay, we had an agreement. Whereas if I'm like concerned that he's going to get mad about it, then I probably shouldn't. I'm not saying I don't do this because a lot of times I schedule classes and then I tell him because he's very supportive. But if maybe your husband or significant other is somebody that needs you to kind of prepare them like with what's coming ahead, and maybe you need to let them know in advance about your classes rather than just telling them, hey, I'm doing this. And then they get mad. And then you're like, well, why did you get mad? Like, why don't you support my business? And maybe that person maybe just needed to be prepared of what was going to be expected of them. And so maybe just talking in advance and having agreements rather than it's just expecting them to watch the kids or expecting them to clean the whole house and the dishes, and so forth. And so,
let me say this. And we've never really had this conversation, but I just assume this has to be true. Because like there's certain times, again, even like today or early on, if she would go to a class, even though she knows I'm supportive, in that moment, if there's that little bit of, okay, like just kind of like that tone of like, even just neutral, just like, okay, but like not super like, hey, okay, sure, you do that. I'm going to do this, go, and like encourage her as she leaves. Like, hey, go, go kill that class. Go knock it out of the park. So if she feels that little bit of hesitation from her husband, I imagine when she's driving in the car on the way to the class, there's a good chance a lot of people could be playing in their head of, instead of preparing for the class, they're thinking, shoot, what happens if I go to this class and I don't enroll anybody? Or maybe I enroll one person and then, and so instead, it's easy for the spouse to start thinking of like, well, I have to perform or else I'm going to let my husband down, or I'm going to, do that. And so then there's a different type of pressure rather than the spouse leaving the house knowing that the spouse is actually supportive. And when they're driving to a class, instead of thinking about, is their husband going to be pissed off when they get home, they can think about the people they're going to go meet and the people they're going to serve. And so I would just imagine that, like, if you are positively with your words and your attitudes, it would make for a much better environment and a clearer mind as somebody is going in front of someone to try and convince them that they need oils in their life. So.
Yeah. And on that note, one thing that, for those of you that don't know or don't follow me on social media, I've been open in the past about, like, we went through some marriage problems, like, for a while there. It was not looking so great. And so, but I'm so grateful. God, the Lord, has completely radically changed that. And I owe it all to Jesus for helping our marriage. But anyway, all that to say is, so yeah, we've learned a lot along the way. And one thing that we have learned is that guilting each other or making the other person feel guilty. And I'm not saying we're 100% like, perfect in our marriage now, but what I'm saying is, like, what we've learned is, like, some old patterns. Like, people will, a lot of times, like, if you leave, like Eric was saying, and going to a class and you feel guilty because your husband's at home with the kids, well, that's not good. Like, that's not healthy. That's not a healthy relationship. That's not a healthy pattern.
Yeah, you're not going to show up in, like, your best state, like high energy, excited about the class, if you have that on your mind.
And so, we've talked about this now, and because we recognized and we've overcome old patterns, and we know what's healthy now, and we know what's not healthy, is like we can talk about it now and be like, hey, I felt guilt. Like, he went on a guy's trip this weekend, so I was home with all 3 children by myself with our 5-month-old, and so it was a lot for me. But he was like, hey, I felt guilty on the way home from such and such that you said. Were you wanting me to feel guilty, or is this just my own issue that I need to deal with? And because there's sometimes, like, the other person can be trying to make you feel guilty, or you just feel guilty because that's just a pattern and you need to, break that pattern, right? And I was like, oh no, I don't want you to feel guilty. Like, when you got home from your trip, did I act mad or resentful or angry that you went on your guys' trip? And he was like, no, you didn't at all. I was like, yeah, I'm not mad that you went on your trip. Like, that's fine. I'm just a talker, and I was just letting you know what all happened this weekend, and it was crazy. And I just talk. I just tell you everything that happened, and I didn't say it all to make him feel guilty, but he was feeling guilty by everything that went on this weekend with the kids. And so all that to say is just having those honest conversations. Guilt is never good. If I were trying to make him feel guilty for leaving, then that would be unhealthy, right? And so guilt is not a good thing. Like, that's one thing I didn't know for all these years, that, like, I thought it was, like, good to feel guilty. Like, I should, like, beat myself up and, like, be ashamed of myself for doing that wrong or doing this. And guilt is not healthy, and we should never guilt one another, and we shouldn't feel it ourselves. And so if we start feeling that, we just need to have an honest conversation like he did and say, hey, I kind of feel guilty. Is this my own issue that I need to get over, or did you, are you mad that I went on that trip? And just having an honest discussion about that. And so that's where communication comes into play, and not making, I see so many women that do feel guilty for doing this business because they're not making a lot of money yet, or their husband has to watch the kids, or they're gone a lot. So the husband wants them to spend more quality time together. And it makes me sad now. I'm like, no, don't feel guilty. You guys just need to have an honest conversation about what works for your marriage. Like, how many days, nights a week or whatever can you be gone to teach a class, and where he's good with it and you're good with it. And please, husbands, be supportive. Like, don't say never. I'm never good with it. Be supportive. But it's really just having that honest discussion and communication up front, so that you all are on the same page, so that nobody feels guilty. Nobody's getting resentful, because hidden resentment is not a good thing at all for your marriage. And it will just, eventually it will blow up. So yeah, guilt is bad. I'm sorry, I didn't answer all y'all's questions.
I'm just, as far as, like, being supportive, I think that, like, it's so important to be supportive anyways, because let's say that, like, you don't think this business is going to work out, and, you are not supportive, and you tell your spouse that. And so then if you fast forward a year down the road and it's not supportive and you were right, like, what good does that do? You were right. Like, who cares? But let's say you don't think it's going to go well, but you're supportive, and then at the end of a year, it doesn't go well and it doesn't work out, because you were supportive, your wife will love you more because you supported her rather than because you were right and, she wasn't successful at it. So even for that reason, just because it lets you support your wife and like be on the same team, then do it, for that reason too.
Yeah, it's so true. So Alyssa asked, at what point were you in your business when Eric decided to start teaching classes with you? Well, he doesn't. Eric does not teach classes with me. I think like he wants to eventually, but we just realized what our strengths are. And my strength is teaching and kind of being the face. And his strength is back office stuff, money, numbers, Excel documents, keeping track of our volume and all of that jazz.
I mean, sometimes, so like we have a class here, or I really haven't done any online. Like I will try to chime in a little bit just because I've heard people say that it is important sometimes if you can have like a guy speak up. Like I've heard people say that they've been in a class and like their husband said something and they could tell that at that point, that's when everybody made the purchasing decision that they were actually going to buy. And so even though like I don't teach, on my own, I try to like add a little bit of value when I can. But yeah, we try to, for the most part, I mean, cause here's the deal, like if there's classes scheduled, if I could go and teach one. I mean, I know enough where I could teach one by myself, but again, we know our strengths. If I go, there's 10 people there. I don't know, maybe I'll close half of them, but Kristen's probably going to roll 9 or 10 of them because she's done it so long and she can engage and, do what she needs to do. And she's done it for a while. She's good at it. So, we really had that point where like I've had to, so.
Yeah. What does a day in the life of the Pardues look like today? Oh, y'all, if you only could see it. Crazy. No, it's really not that crazy. When this summer, it was crazy because we had a brand new baby and the older 2 boys were home from school for the summer. I'm like, do not have a baby and then school get out. And then all 3 children are at home and you're like they're adjusting to the new baby. So they're acting out. I mean, this summer was pure crazy. But now the 2 older ones are in school and we just had the baby at home. Our 3-year-old's home 2 days a week, but it's not too crazy because the baby is just so easygoing. We wake up. He works out early in the morning before anybody's awake. And then we wake up usually. We do our we do our individual time. We read our Bibles, but we get the kids breakfast, off to 2 older ones off to school. Then I go work out. And so I actually don't start working my doTERRA business until about 10 a.m. probably 10 or 10:30. And that's when I start on my computer doing all the work, following up with people and scheduling classes and things like that. But we're both working from home. Y'all, so that's funny. He quit his job about 2.5 years ago. And we start spending 24/7 together because we spend 24/7 together because we have little ones at home. So we're in the process of hiring a personal assistant, but anyway, to help around the house too. But, it was crazy when he first came home because can you imagine being with your spouse 24/7? I mean, it's a lot of time, y'all. So that is what forced us to, we got to work on our junk. Oh, we got some stuff to work through. Because when they go off if one of your spouses goes off to job during the day and you don't see them all day, marriage is easy. Okay, it's not easy, but it's a lot easier when they go off for the day because you actually have time to maybe miss them, right? But when you're together 24/7, that will force you to deal with your junk. There is no hiding it now. So that's so 2.5 years ago, yeah, that's when we started dealing with our junk and getting lots of healing in our marriage. And so if you've ever felt hopeless in your marriage, I've been there, we've been there, and I can just tell you that have hope because we are a walking testimony of that. And also, Bill Johnson said this quote, and I spoke at Leadership 2 years ago or a year ago, and I shared it. Any area of your life which has no hope is under the influence of a lie. So in your marriage, if you're feeling hopeless, you're under the influence of a lie because there is always hope. There's always miracles. In your business, if you're feeling hopeless in your business, you're under the influence of a lie. And I love that by Bill Johnson because it's so true because nothing should be hopeless in life because there's always miracles. There's always turnarounds. There's always breakthrough as long as you're willing to seek those things. But anyway, So day in the life back then, yeah, it was probably, trying to figure out how to be together 24/7. And now it's so much smoother. It's so much better. It's so much freer. We have so much freedom now. We hire a girl to come and fold our laundry and put our laundry away and do our dishes for us. So that's amazing now. Again, all these things we did not used to have, but just keep working hard. You'll get them too. And then, just working on our business in the meantime, nursing a baby, passing the baby off so I can get back to work, or he's going to work a little bit and I'm holding the baby. It's really just communicating, okay, who's going to watch baby today, or who's going to watch the 3-year-old today? And so it's really just about, so we don't get resentful or frustrated with the other person, is like, whose role is it to do this today? And so really writing that out. We keep saying we haven't done this yet, but every Sunday we want to write out the week. Okay, Kristen is working on Monday, and Eric's going to watch the 2 kids in between nursing sessions. And then, Friday is going to be Eric's day to work, and Kristen's going to be with the 2 little ones. And so it's really like, that's what we keep saying, is like, we need to write out the expectation of the week so that everybody's on the same page. So I recommend that if you do work together eventually. Is it best to create clear lines of responsibilities within your business, or to work together for every decision? Oh, every decision? No, we don't work together for every decision. He trusts me really well. I think there's got to be trust between one another, like, especially like financial decisions. I mean, obviously, if I'm going to make a huge financial purchase, or he is, we're going to discuss it. But I mean, if I'm going to go buy some new jeans, I do talk to him about it, but I don't need to. Like, he doesn't care. I don't care. He bought some new workout shorts that were expensive. I'm like, I don't care. So we don't talk about every decision. In our business as well, I tend to be indecisive, so I'm always asking for his input on making decisions, but I don't feel like I have to make the decision, if that makes sense. Like, I don't feel like, oh, I have to have Eric's input to make this business decision. Like, for example, where to have our team party or different things like that. No, I don't just make those decisions with him. I'm trying to think what I make business decisions with you. We really don't really discuss anything.
Well, I mean, I would say like big level strategy. So like, where do we need to work on volume, or where should we move this person, stuff like that. But I mean, individual stuff with individual builders that come to her, she probably does with.
Oh, I just now saw. Yes, you do calendar every Sunday night. That's so smart. How do you hold your wife accountable without her getting mad at you? That's a good question.
How do you hold your wife?
Do you mean, Rocio, do you mean in this business? Like, how does he hold me accountable to keep growing in the business? I'm assuming that's what you meant.
She's asking, how can her husband hold her?
What'd you say?
Come here. Well, I'll let him ask you.
How do you hold her?
Oh, yeah, we're recording. Sorry, we're getting the kids to bed, too.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just asking. So Rosie always talks about accountability.
This is kind of embarrassing because it is recorded.
Okay.
Hey, everybody.
Anyway, well, I mean, if it's a husband-wife kind of thing.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So with that, she always talks about being held accountable. And she even talked with her upline today, too, about it. And we've talked about it tons of times. But every time that I talk to her about it, she tends to get a little more upset with me, asking, like, hey, have you done this, and this yet? And she'll go upset. Is there a certain way that you guys talk about accountability between the two of you?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is good. I don't know.
Eric knows that I'm very hard on myself. I think that if he was hard on me too, I would just crumble. No. How do you?
I don't know. I mean,
I think it depends on the wife's personality. So here's me. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I've always been an overachiever. I had, valedictorian of my class in high school. And then I was actually in pharmacy school. Like, I've always been a overachiever. And so I think, like, for him to tell an overachiever to keep me accountable, like, he just knows it's not necessary. But that's why I think it depends on the wife's personality. Now, for somebody that maybe really needs accountability, that's not an overachiever and is already always like, I'm like a go, go, go. Let's go to the next thing. So how would you approach?
I think that if somebody has a problem with, it sounds like Rocio, she wants accountability, but it's just frustrating at the time. probably when you didn't get done what you said you were going to get done. I mean, the best way to do it is probably just like have like a whiteboard or a sheet with whatever your weekly goals are, whatever the things are you need to be accountable with, and just write them down yourself. And that way, and then when you're done, you can put a check by it, and that way he doesn't even have to ask you. If he wants to know, he can go look at the board.
Well,
Or,
we'll just give an example. Like, we'll switch the roles a little bit here. So Eric was working on my website. We're redoing my website, and he had a long list of things I needed him to do, and they haven't been done yet, And so I've been asking him, okay, when's the website going to be done? And it's easy to get defensive. We've all been there. We've all done it. I get it. But I guess how would you want me to bring up have you gotten your stuff done yet?
I don't know. Okay, so I would say that, like, again, everybody's like critical of themselves. So like there was frustration on my end for not being able to get what I wanted to get done on the website, right? So I think that if you can come to the spouse as like a team player versus antagonistic, that probably helps. So like, I mean, even if you just word like, hey, I know you've been super busy, but I know you also said that this is what you wanted to get done. Like, were you able to get that done? Rather than just like checking up on them, right? Because nobody wants their spouse to be their boss, and that'd be miserable. So as soon as you can figure out like, hey, these are, what the goals, like, we decided, I mean, even if you say something like, hey, is there something I can do to help you meet that goal? Like, at least then it's like, hey, like, what can I do to help? Rather than like, you're getting called into your boss's or the principal's office to see if you, finish your report or whatever, that's would be miserable.
Yeah, I think that's good. Like asking them, hey, is there anything I should go to Eric and be like, hey, is there anything I can do to help get that website done faster?
Actually, there was a lot that you tell me to do because all of it is like writing and just different stuff. And I'm like, or like colors of your website. I'm like, I don't know. Like there's so much that, anyways.
Having a man do a female's website. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just asking politely, like I've posted in my notes, I think the key thing in marriage and doing marriage and business and just marriage in general is asking questions. Like, just like we talk about with your builders, you're never going to go to your builder and being like, why haven't you taught your classes this month? What is wrong with you? Like, what are you doing? I mean, those are questions, but they're negative questions. But instead asking questions like, oh, I'm just curious. Why do you think you haven't hit your goal yet? Rather than telling them like, you haven't hit your goal because you don't work hard. You don't tell them, you just say in a loving, kind way, I'm just curious. Like, what do you think standing in the way of where you are now and where you want to be? And so the same thing with our spouses. If we could just lovingly and kindly ask questions like, hey, I'm feeling this right now. Is this right? Is this good? Are you good? Or, just, I don't know, asking them questions like, hey, you seem a little stressed. Is there anything I can help you with right now? I think if we can ask questions and getting the other person to talk to us rather than telling them what they're doing wrong or telling them that they're stressed out and they're freaking out and they're crazy, like just asking them questions. Hey, what can I help you with? Hey, are you doing okay today? Because it's so easy just to like, if Eric's having a bad day or if I'm having a bad day, for one of us to go to the other person like, okay, stop freaking out. And just telling them everything that they're doing wrong. Instead, just realizing, okay, they're obviously dealing with some internal stuff. Like, hey, what can I help you with? And so we've gotten better about that. We used to be horrible at it, and now, if he sees that I'm stressed, he's really good now. Usually, at being like coming up and giving me a hug and say, hey, what's wrong? So asking questions rather than telling the other person what they're doing wrong is key with your builders and with your spouses. At what point did Eric start helping with the office side? Like what rank? We were blue diamond. He probably should have started a little bit sooner. We let fear play in a little too much. I wish we would have hired help a lot sooner. Well,
let me say that also too, like you have to realize she had diamond in a year and then blue diamond six months later. So like, that's like pretty fast. It's very fast. And so, if it would have taken her, 2 years to hit diamond, or even longer, maybe it takes 3 or 4 years, I probably would have got in a little earlier. But I mean, it was super fast. I didn't really pay much attention until you hit diamond. Diamond is really when I started like getting into being like what, like, yeah, like that's a lot of money. Like let's figure out how to keep doing this.
But that's because it happens so fast. Like y'all don't wait. You spouses don't wait until they hit diamond because our paycheck literally jumped like in a few months. It happened too fast for him to even catch up.
Yeah.
I recommend diamond. okay, I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to recommend any rank.
Yeah, I mean,
for your spouse to quit. Y'all got to figure that out together.
No, I would say wait, it's not about quitting a job, is it? It's just about helping and looking at rank.
Okay, I thought you meant quitting a job.
Like now, I mean, I don't know why you would want to wait. That way you can start helping now.
What were your top 3 intentions, goals when you first started doTERRA? To tell everyone about natural health, to share, to help more people get off medication, because for those of you that don't know, I was on all this medication from autoimmune issues 8.5 years ago, and I was able to get off all my medications. So I was so passionate about helping people get healthier naturally because of my own journey. And my last intention, I didn't even think about being able to quit my job back then, because I didn't know that was possible when I first started. We didn't have any Facebook groups like this for people to tell me these awesome testimonies. So it was really just to share health with the rest of the world. That was really all the only reason I was doing it at the very beginning. And then I went to my first convention, and that's when I realized, oh, maybe I can quit my job doing this, because I saw other people at convention that had. And so that's when I was like, I need to quit my job. Like, let's get to work, I hear so many say they're recovering perfectionists. How did you get through this? Ooh, that's a good question. How did I get through that?
What is it? Like they say perfectionism is like fear.
It's definitely fear.
In disguise or something.
It's definitely fear. I used to have a major fear issue. Thank God I've been delivered from fear. I used to have major anxiety and fear issues. Who are you waving at?
Boy.
Aw. But yeah, I've been delivered from a severe fear. I don't really struggle with like anxiety anymore, that feeling in my chest like I used to have. I struggle with fear. And what was I going to say? Fear. Oh.
I would say, if you're thinking, or like probably insecurity.
Well, I had a dream about this the other night, y'all. So what the dream meant was that it was like, anyway, I'm not even going to go into depth about this. Sorry, y'all. We could talk all night about this. I'm not going to do this. But anyway, what I realized that the lie that I was believing was that I was constantly hearing subconsciously. I didn't know I was hearing this, but subconsciously I was believing the lie of I'm not good enough. So if you're a perfectionist, then it's never good enough. I mean, you've got to have it perfect. And so you don't realize that you're believing this lie that it's not good enough. Right here is not good enough. So you got to be here. That's not good enough. So if you're a perfectionist, there's no such thing as perfect. So you're literally always going to feel like you're not good enough. Always. I mean, I just even think back to when I was a valedictorian. Well, there's a few other valedictorians. Well, that wasn't good enough because I wasn't the top only one valedictorian. I mean, it's just crazy, y'all. It's just crazy. So to get over being a perfectionist, I realized that I am good enough. My faith, is what helped me through all that. I know everyone's different backgrounds here, but that was what helped for me. But you have to stop believing the lie that it's not good enough, that whatever you do is not good enough, because as long as you keep believing that lie that it's not good enough, you're always going to be a perfectionist.
So I would also say, like Tony Robbins talks about like a primary question. And everybody has one or a couple of primary questions that you're constantly asking yourself. And it's usually they end up like insinuating that like it's negative. So like if you're a perfectionist, it's going to be like, how can I make it better? Or what do I need to be doing, more of or whatever. And when you have to realize, like when you're asking yourself that, no answer is good enough, because there's always something more you can be doing. And so until you can realize what question you're asking yourself and change the question into something that where you can find like fulfillment or satisfaction right now, you literally won't ever be happy, because you'll just always be constantly asking yourself, how can I make myself better, rather than just enjoying where you are right now. Of course, growing, but paying attention to your primary question of what you're asking yourself.
Yeah, that's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job. Sorry, I'm reading through the questions. What do you say to those people who have been invited to multiple classes, but they just aren't interested in oils? Next. I mean, I would just honestly ask them like, hey, do you want me to, I mean, it sounds like they don't want you to keep inviting them, but you could ask them, hey, I just want to make sure, because I don't want to bother you. Do you want me to stop inviting you? if they're not interested in oils, they're probably going to say yes. So if they say yes, stop inviting me to classes or one-on-ones, I would just in my mind think next.
And I think I'd also be like, okay, well, promise me that when you're ready to buy oils, you'll call me. Because at some point they will be, right? And so
because when you come across with this desperate energy, like I need you to buy these oils, they're probably going to run. People feel your energy and they feel that desperateness, and so they are probably going to run if they sense that you're desperate. And so like Eric said, like, yeah, just promise me. I mean, you can even half jokingly say this, but oh yeah, just promise me that when you're ready to buy oils, you'll get them from me, because you're coming across as like, I know everyone in this world is going to have doTERRA oils eventually. I know you don't say this, but think this. I know you'll become crawling back to me. Obviously don't say that, but when you say, call me when you are ready, you're coming across as confident. Like, I know you're going to need these oils someday, lady, but, so then they may even want oils right then, because they sense how confident you are that they're going to need the oils. And so I've said this in a team call before. Tony Robbins says this in a conversation: whoever has the most certainty when they're discussing anything, whoever has the most certainty will influence the other person. So if you're more certain that they need oils than they are certain that they don't need oils, then you'll influence them, even subconsciously. You may not even know that you've influenced them, but you've planted that seed, and then they will come back to you, hopefully, as long as you keep showing up when they are ready to buy oils. But they may need 7-10 times to hear about oils, and then they're like, okay, I'm finally ready, and hopefully they'll come back to you. But the person that, if they're more certain that they don't need oils, and you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if you need oils, then of course they're not gonna, they're gonna influence you. But just don't come across as desperate. Just come across as next, because what you have to offer is so freaking amazing. These oils rock. This lifestyle rocks. If they don't want to partner with you in this journey, then that's their loss. And maybe they'll come around later. I hope they do, but you're not going to fret over it. You're not going to let that pull you down, because you need your energy up and high and joyful for the next person to come around. You want to partner with people that want what you have to offer. And that's why we keep educating. I keep educating on my social media. I keep having classes. I keep one-on-ones, because my job is to educate people on why they need this lifestyle, why they need these oils. So keep educating, and maybe they'll come around.
So somebody asked tips on trying to get your husband interested in joining you in personal development. So I would definitely say do this in a playful way, but guys are competitive. And so, challenge them a little bit. Be like, hey, talk about what your goals are, what you want to do in this business. And for Kristen, public speaking is what she, wants to get into. And she's spoken at a convention in front of 10,000 people and just a bunch of things. And so, you can definitely I think challenge, again, do it in a playful way, but joke with them about, hey, I'm going to, do this or do this more than you, or I'm going to be better at that, and that's going to get him interested, because he's going to want to know okay, well, I don't want to be left behind. How can I, grow too? So I would say, give him a competition or challenge him to read a book, bet that he won't read some, whatever book with you or something, or, I don't know, just make it fun. But guys like competition. So anytime you can use that probably helps to motivate them to action. Yeah.
So real quick, as we're wrapping up, you can still ask questions, but I wanted to point on this. There's some people that will watch this call, because this is the one I hear a lot of. I've had a few girls really upset. They're like, my husband doesn't support my business at all. What can I do? This is my marriage. This is everything. What do I do when he doesn't see the money coming in and sees me spending maybe more than what I'm making? How do I get him to be more supportive?
Are you asking me?
Oh, yeah.
No. Wait, repeat it again, because I was barely listening while you were talking.
Oh, my lands, y'all.
Probably listening is probably another good, takeaway.
Yeah.
Listen to your spouse.
I have 3 sons, too, and this is what all day long. I'm just talking and nobody's listening. Okay, so there's a few girls on our team, and there may be more out there that haven't discussed with me. Their husbands are not supportive of them doing this business at all, because all the husband sees is dollar signs. They see more money going out than what's coming in, and they've been doing this business X amount of time. How can they get their husband to be on board with it?
I think the same way I answered earlier, just kind of challenge that. One, I always tell to people, you can tell them to call me. If they'll talk, I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody. And I'll tell them that I was more negative or more pessimistic than they were. And so that way they feel open to it, and they'll know, hey, here's a guy coming from a place where I was. So if anybody ever wants to talk, I mean, I'm happy to, help out how I can. But I think that's important to figure out like what they don't believe in, and then have them like research it. So if it's doTERRA, like I was saying earlier, maybe they just don't think that doTERRA, it could, because here's the thing.
It's direct sales.
Here's the thing though, like with doTERRA, like, you think about like Target or something, like you can go to Target or like, like these stores and you just like see them as like companies. But it's easy from a guy's perspective when you're at home and your wife is going to, teach an oil, class. It sometimes for a guy, it's like, oh, well, they're just going to like, to a little hobby and like have a little oil party or whatever. And it just doesn't seem like a real business. So like, if it's that he doesn't think it's a real business, then have him research at it. Is it, he doesn't think, do what?
Direct sales.
Yeah. If he doesn't think like it's, direct sales.
We'll show you our paycheck if he doesn't believe in direct sales. Just kidding. But really.
Yeah. Just like challenge them to, just to do their own research, I think. I don't know. It's difficult. I mean, the other thing is just, over time, as you have success, that'll be proof.
Yeah. Like my brother and sister-in-law do this business, Amy Connor and my brother's Matthew. Her why at the beginning, I'm not saying this is, well, anyway, her why was like, my brother was a little, anal about the finances, as a husband should be, I guess. But, and he had seen her do another direct sales company that was like a total wash, like she didn't do well in, because the products, anyway, some direct sales company compensation plans, we all know, just aren't great. Anyway, she did not do good in. So he was like, no, you're not going to do this. So her why was like, I want to show him that I can do this business and make money. And so now my brother, anyway, she's a diamond in doTERRA now and making good money. And my brother, it just texts us today, is like, where are we staying at for leadership? Well, he was at convention, he's going to leadership. So he goes to all the events now and he's all in now. And so her why was just, I'm going to show him that I can do this business and make money doing it. So I'm not saying that, we want to be kind and loving always, of course, but anyway, they are playful about it. So they don't care to tell anybody.
The next question is funny about like me sharing on Facebook, like of how to support Kristen or how to like share oils. Kristen literally took a snapshot of another guy that posted something about oils last night. She was in a room and I was in the living room and texted me and said, you need to be more like this, like like sharing oils on Facebook.
No, because he was sharing about oils. Like he was just so confident sharing about the oils. And I'm thinking, well, that's his presidential diamond and he's not sharing about these oils on Facebook.
I mean, like if you look on Facebook, I don't like I'll get on there a little bit, but like I don't even share much anyways, right? I mean, I think the last time I shared something on Instagram was like probably a year ago. I mean, so like I just don't. I don't share a lot anyways, but honestly, that's something I need to work on. So
challenge.
That's a great challenge for me now. So thanks for pointing that out.
Here's a challenge. Whitney says, I'll get my husband to post about oils before you do.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
All right. He's not going to bed till he does. No, I'm just kidding. No, but one thing you have done is they also asked, have you ever shared on Facebook a personal story to show your support of Kristen? He has done that. So I know a lot of you have seen that. He has posted about, how proud he was of me and how hard I work my business. So he's definitely been amazing at supporting me in my business and sharing that on Facebook as well. But yes, this new season is Eric teaching. He's going to teach men classes and also share more on social media about the oils. We've even talked about this. Awesome. All right. Well, I know this is getting long. Does anyone have any last minute questions? All right. So I just want to end with this, I don't even know how to say it. Anyway, all I can say is anything that you don't pour into, you're either growing or you're dying. Your business is either growing or it's dying. Your marriage is either growing or it's dying. And I feel like not everyone has little ones. We have little ones. That's the season of life that we're in. And I know some of you don't have little ones, don't have any children, have grandchildren, whatnot. But, you've got to pour life into the areas that you want to see grow. And so, I can't just focus on my business all the time, or my marriage could suffer if I don't ever give my marriage any time. And again, I'm not saying that we've got this mastered, but we have to be intentional in all the different areas. And so one thing that, again, I wish I would have done earlier is like hired more help. Like maybe you need to get a sitter and go on date nights every Friday. And maybe that's hard to do financially, but maybe you can trade sitter services and find some friends if you're strapped for financially. And I'll watch your kids this Friday while y'all go on a date, while you watch my kids the next Friday so we can go on a date. So maybe you can do that where it's free, whatever you need to do, or do date nights after you get your kids to bed and stay at home and go out and start a fire in your backyard and just talk, and turn off the television and just talk. But just pour in your marriage. It's not going to grow unless you pour into it. And so when we started being intentional about our marriage, then it started getting better. And so if anybody on this call, I know a lot of you just wanted to keep your marriage strong, but if there's anybody that actually wants to talk one-on-one with us, if you're like feeling really hopeless, like we'd love to talk with you through that, because we've been there as well. And so we didn't really get into all the seriousness, but again, anybody that's feeling hopeless, we're happy to talk to you. But for everybody else, just keep pouring into your marriage, and just realize in every area of your life, you literally, like we did this at a Tony Robbins event, was it a circle? We talked about your marriage, your kids, your business, your giving, how much you're contributing to the world or to other people. And like on a scale of 1 to 10, rate like, how are you pouring into your marriage? How are you pouring into your children, to your business? And I realize it's a lot and it can get overwhelming. But your family is first and foremost. It should always be. And that doesn't mean that we don't go and work our businesses and go to conventional leadership. I do all the things. But I also just create those moments, those pocket moments with my children, with my husband, where I'm making sure they know that I love them, and so just being more intentional, and, we want to do even better with that as well. Any last minute words from you? No. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully this was fun. I just like talking to y'all. Next time, let's do it on a trip somewhere together. But anyway, have a great night. And thanks everybody for hopping on. And thank you to all those spouses that are on or going to watch the recording. Good night, everybody.